Hi, my name is Karen, and before I say anything else, I want to ask you something from the heart. Has anyone ever made you feel like an outsider in your own family? Like no matter what you did, how much you gave, how much effort you put in, you still weren't enough? Like they saw you as useful but never valuable? I know some of you watching right now are from places like Georgia, Ohio, Texas, even New York. And I'm sure some of you have stories just like mine. Stories where the people you thought were supposed to love and protect you ended up being the ones who humiliated you. If that's ever happened to you, I want you to take a second and tell me in the comments. Have you ever planned something big for your family? A party, a celebration, maybe even help someone financially, only to be left out? Disrespected? Treated like a stranger? Because I did something for my family. Something I thought would bring us all together. I spent months organizing a reunion. Not just a small dinner. No, I went all out. I booked a beautiful villa for the weekend, hired a caterer, set up the decorations, paid for every single thing out of my own pocket. I didn't ask anyone for a dime. I did it because I thought, maybe this time they'll see how much I care. Maybe this time they'll treat me like I matter. But when I arrived at the villa, this place I paid for, they told me to stay outside and handle the parking. My own mother looked at me and said, "You're not really part of this. Just help out like you always do." They thought I'd just stand there and take it. Smile, nod, and stay silent like I always had. But what they didn't know was that the villa, the contract, all of it was in my name. And all it took was one phone call. It all started one quiet Sunday morning. I was sitting on my back porch sipping my coffee, looking at the empty chairs around me. And for some reason I thought about my childhood. Those loud Sunday dinners, cousins running around the yard, mom yelling at us to wash our hands before we touched the food, and dad always saying grace a little too long while we peeked at the food, trying not to laugh. But those days felt like a lifetime ago. These days we were all just scattered. My brother moved to Arizona. My sister got caught up in her high society life in New York. And even mom and dad were growing older and quieter in their empty house in Tennessee. We hadn't all been in the same place in over 5 years. 5 years. I kept thinking, what if something happened? What if we waited too long? That's when the idea hit me. A family reunion. Not just any get-together, but a weekend where we could all slow down, reconnect, laugh again. And for once I wanted to be the one to make it happen. No drama, no chaos. Just us. I didn't tell anyone at first. I started planning everything quietly like a surprise. I spent nights after work scrolling through venues online, calling caterers, checking calendars. I finally found the perfect place. A stunning villa just outside of Nashville. Rustic, spacious, beautiful gardens, and enough rooms for everyone to stay comfortably. I remember my heart racing when I paid the deposit. $4,000. It wasn't pocket change. But I didn't think twice. I imagined mom sitting on that porch swing smiling. I saw my nephews running across the lawn barefoot and free. I pictured us all gathered around a big wooden table sharing stories, maybe even healing some old wounds. It felt worth it. Next came the catering. I booked this amazing local chef who made Southern comfort food with a modern twist. Mac and cheese, cornbread, slow-cooked ribs, even peach cobbler just like Grandma used to make. I ordered floral decorations, rented extra tables, even planned a slideshow of old family photos to play during dinner. I poured my whole heart into this. Every detail mattered because this wasn't just about having fun. It was about connection. I'd felt like the odd one out in my family for so long. The one who stayed behind, who kept checking in, who remembered everyone's birthdays. I missed them even when they didn't seem to miss me. Maybe I was being naive, thinking one weekend could fix years of distance. But I believed in the power of moments. Real, honest moments. And I wanted to give that to us. I kept thinking maybe if they see how much effort I've put in, maybe they'll see me. When I finally called and told them about the reunion, everyone seemed excited. My brother said he'd try to take time off. My sister acted surprised, then said she'd fit it into her calendar. My parents were quiet, then mom said, "Oh, that's sweet of you, honey." And that was it. No questions about the cost, no offer to help. Just casual acceptance like it was expected of me. So I didn't care. I was just happy they said yes. I convinced myself that once we were all together, it would feel like old times. I imagined the hugs, the laughter, maybe even a family picture we could finally frame. I told myself this wasn't just a gathering, it was a fresh start. But deep down, something felt off. I just didn't know how badly it would all unravel. The morning of the reunion, I woke up early, too excited to sleep. I packed my bags, double-checked the itinerary and even picked up fresh flowers on my way to the villa. I had this warm feeling in my chest like I was finally doing something that would mean something, not just for me but for everyone. It felt right. When I pulled up to the villa, my heart skipped a beat. It looked even more beautiful than I remembered. The sun hit the white stone walls just perfectly, and I could hear music and laughter drifting out from the open doors. I smiled to myself. This was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. But as I walked toward the entrance, dragging my small suitcase behind me, something felt off. I saw cars already parked. My sister's black SUV, my brother's truck, even some neighbors I hadn't expected. I didn't mind that they'd arrived early, but I did feel a little surprised no one had called or messaged to ask if I needed help setting up. Then I saw the banner. It was hanging just inside the doorway, big and bold, reading, "Welcome to Emily's baby shower." Not family reunion. Not even my name. My sister's baby shower. My smile froze. I stepped inside and it was like I'd entered a different reality. Pink balloons everywhere, cupcakes with little baby feet, gift tables stacked high. My cousin waved at me from across the room like I was just a guest. Someone's plus one. And there was Emily, my sister, holding court in the middle of the room, cradling her belly, laughing with people as they fawned over her. I looked around for a sign. Anything that showed my name, my effort, even a small thank you. But there was nothing. The catering I had selected so carefully was already being served. But the servers were now wearing aprons with Emily's Day printed on them. The flowers I had chosen were rearranged to match the baby shower theme. The slideshow? Gone. Replaced by a looping video of Emily's maternity photos. I was stunned. Before I could even say anything, my uncle tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Oh good, you're here. Cars are piling up outside. Can you help direct parking? We're short on hands." I blinked at him. Parking. He didn't even wait for an answer, just walked away. And then came the final blow. My mother approached, smiling wide, arms spread like she was welcoming me into something beautiful. But then she leaned in and whispered, "You're not really part of this. Just help out like you always do. You're good at that." She patted my arm and walked away before I could respond. I stood there frozen. The music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, it all sounded distant. I looked down at my shoes, suddenly unsure why I had even come. I had planned everything. I had paid for everything. And here I was, standing like a stranger at the door, being told to manage the cars like some hired help. I felt this tightness in my chest, like my ribs were closing in. My vision blurred a little, but I forced the tears back. I didn't want to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. Not when they were too busy celebrating to even notice the person who had made it all happen. I walked outside slowly, pretending like I needed fresh air. I stood at the edge of the driveway, arms folded, watching guests pull in, waving politely, directing them to park without saying a word. The sun was still shining. The flowers were still blooming. And yet I had never felt so invisible. I kept hearing my mother's voice in my head. "You're not really part of this." Like I was just the assistant. The helper. The one who was useful but never loved. In that moment I felt something inside me snap. Not in anger but in clarity. Because what they didn't know, what none of them bothered to ask, was that every invoice, every reservation, every legal paper tied to this event, was in my name. They had taken over my plan, turned it into a celebration for someone else, and made me feel small in the process. But I still had control. They just didn't know it yet. I stood at the edge of the parking lot, watching people laugh and dance in the villa I paid for. My hands were still, my lips tight, but my mind was racing. I wasn't just hurt, I was remembering. And the memories were like cuts from the past that never really healed, just got buried under more and more silence. I remembered the time my younger brother wanted to go to college out of state. My parents said they couldn't afford the full tuition, so I quietly paid the remaining $6,000. No one asked me to. I just thought that's what family does. He graduated, got a job, and never mentioned it again. Not even a thank you card. I remembered my sister's wedding. She asked me to help organize everything. I stayed up at night planning, printing, folding napkins into swans because she'd seen it on Pinterest. The day of the wedding, when the family photos were taken, they forgot to include me in the main group shot. I was standing 10 feet away, holding a plate of appetizers, smiling like a fool. Then there were birthdays. I never missed theirs. Always called at midnight, always sent gifts. But my own? Some years they forgot entirely. Other years it was a late text or a forwarded meme that said, HBD. Not even my name. Just 3 letters. I thought about the group chat we had, Fam Jam. Whenever I shared something, a work promotion or even just a funny meme, it got no response. But when Emily posted a photo of her baby bump, heart emojis everywhere. Hundreds of them. Like the screen would explode from love. I wasn't jealous. I was exhausted. Exhausted from giving and never being seen. From being the first to show up and the last to be remembered. From always being the helper. The extra. The one who paid and planned and held everyone else together. Quietly, invisibly. And now this. I glanced back at the villa. Emily was opening gifts, my mother was clapping, and someone had just turned on the bubble machine I rented. It floated out a few sparkles into the warm air as if mocking me. That's when my cousin Jenna passed by me. She was holding a cupcake and barely looked up when she said under her breath, "Why are you even here?" It hit harder than I thought it would. Because she wasn't being cruel. She was being honest. Why was I even there? I turned, slowly walked to my car. My heels crunched lightly against the gravel. I opened the door and sat in the driver's seat, not to drive away, but to breathe. And then I smiled. Not a loud, dramatic smile. Not the kind you post on Instagram with a fake caption. This was quiet. Controlled. Because for the first time I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't even going to explain myself. I was going to act. They thought I was just the helper again. That I'd carry boxes and park cars and clean up afterward while they celebrated like they earned it. But they didn't know that the venue was in my name. The catering? Booked by my account. The photographer? Paid for by me. The servers, the DJ, even the liability insurance? All of it, me. Every receipt had my name at the top. Every agreement tied to my email. Every contract bound to me and me alone. They thought I wouldn't do anything. That I'd stay quiet, swallow my pride and disappear into the background. But not this time. I leaned back in my seat, letting the soft hum of the engine buzz in the background. I tapped my phone screen and stared at one name. Just one. And as my thumb hovered over the call button, I whispered to myself, "Let's see who's really in charge now." I pressed it. I sat in my car, heart steady but my mind sharp. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, fingers trembling just a little, not from fear but from the rush of power that was finally mine. I dialed a number I'd saved for a rainy day like this, my lawyer's direct line. When the call connected, I took a deep breath and spoke slowly, clearly so every word landed exactly where I wanted. Execute the backup clause. Effective now. There was a pause on the other end, then a voice, calm, professional and reassuring. Understood. The contract places the villa under your name temporarily as a rental property. The clause allows immediate takeover if the primary renters breach any terms. I smiled faintly. All those months of careful planning, every document signed, every legal step taken behind the scenes, was about to pay off. I wasn't just someone who paid for a party. I was the one in control. The lawyer continued, "I'll notify their party planners and the villa management. They'll have to vacate within 15 minutes. Security will be there to enforce it if necessary." 15 minutes. I could almost hear the gasps and shocked whispers that would soon fill the villa. The same people who waved me off like a nuisance, who laughed and told me to just help out, were about to be shown the truth. The truth that the housewarming party they stole wasn't theirs to steal. I looked around the parking lot. The sun was still warm, but a cool breeze picked up as if nature itself was readying for what was coming. I was ready too. Calm, collected and prepared. They thought I was invisible. But invisible people have the advantage: they can watch, wait and strike when least expected. The phone call ended and I put it down slowly. I sat back, breathing in the moment. I wasn't just going to leave quietly. This was my moment. The moment they would realize that being the helper didn't mean being weak. It meant I knew how to protect myself when it mattered most. I glanced back at the villa one last time before the countdown began. In 15 minutes, everything would change. The villa's lively music began to fade as the staff quietly started gathering their things. Servers folded tablecloths, the DJ packed his equipment, and the catering team carefully boxed up the untouched food. It was subtle at first, but soon, a ripple of confusion spread through the guests. "What's going on?" Whispered voices floated across the room. "Why are they shutting down the party?" someone asked nervously. I stood just outside the main doors, watching through the glass walls as panic started to settle in. The celebration that was supposed to be my housewarming, stolen by my own family, was unraveling right before their eyes. Then I walked in. I wasn't the woman they had ignored moments ago, the one asked to park cars and stay outside. I was standing tall, dressed in a simple but elegant dress that made everyone stop and stare. My voice was calm but firm as I addressed the room. You should have treated the host with respect. The room fell silent. The laughter and chatter stopped as if someone had flipped a switch. Faces that were once full of joy turned pale. Some guests looked around, trying to understand what was happening. My mother's eyes widened and she took a step forward. This isn't fair. Before she could finish, two villa staff gently but firmly stepped forward and guided her toward the exit. Her protests were muffled by the soft thud of the door closing behind her. Confused guests started whispering among themselves, some glancing nervously at their watches, others pulling out phones perhaps to call rides home. I raised my hand holding a small microphone I'd brought just in case. The room quieted again. To the few of you who truly cared and saw what was happening behind the smiles, thank you, I said, my voice steady. This was meant to be a celebration of new beginnings, a housewarming filled with love and family. I looked around, catching eyes that felt the sting of truth with me. But instead it became a reminder. A reminder that respect and love can't be bought, borrowed, or stolen. They have to be earned. The guests shifted uneasily. Some avoided my gaze while others nodded quietly, understanding the deeper meaning behind my words. I paused, letting the silence fill the room. Then with a small smile, I closed with the words I'd been holding back for so long. Now this is my family. The statement hung in the air, strong and clear. The few who stayed with me were the real family, the ones who saw me, respected me, and stood beside me. The others? They were just names on a list, memories that didn't matter anymore. As the last guests trickled out, the villa grew quiet. But inside me, a fire had been lit. A fire of strength, dignity, and the promise that I would never again be invisible in my own life. This was my moment. My victory. And the beginning of a new chapter where respect wasn't given. It was demanded. After all that happened at the villa, I finally returned home. Driving back felt strange at first. The streets were quiet, the sun was setting, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel rushed or anxious. The house where I had planned the party, the place I had hoped would bring my family together, was now just my safe space. As I pulled into the driveway and stepped inside, a calm settled over me. I was finally at peace. The silence in my home was different this time. It wasn't lonely or sad. It was comforting. No fake smiles, no whispered gossip, no cold shoulders. Just me, my thoughts, and a feeling I hadn't known in years: freedom. I sat down and took a deep breath, feeling the weight I'd carried for so long start to lift. So many times before I had been the one giving, the one helping, the one forgotten. But today I took back control. I was the one standing tall, the one who mattered. That night my phone started buzzing. At first I ignored it. Then the screen lit up with names, relatives I hadn't heard from in months, even years. Names of people who had turned their backs on me at the villa. They were calling, texting, maybe trying to say sorry or fix things. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. I stared at the phone, feeling the old hurt creep back. These were the same people who made me feel invisible, who ignored my efforts and disrespected me in my own home. Why should I answer now? Why should I open the door to the same pain all over again? So I didn't. Instead, I let the calls go to voicemail. I deleted some messages without reading them. It wasn't about being cruel. It was about protecting myself. Sometimes self-love means saying no to people who have hurt you, even if they are family. I thought about all those years I spent trying to be everything for everyone else. Paying for cousins' tuition, helping with birthdays, standing by when no one noticed me. And for what? To be pushed aside like I was nothing? It was time for a change. I realized healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about accepting it and choosing to move forward without the weight of those who don't respect you. Cutting toxic ties is hard, especially when it's your family. But sometimes it's the only way to save yourself. I looked around my home, my sanctuary. Each corner reminded me of who I was and who I wanted to be. A woman who deserved respect. A woman who would no longer settle for less. I began to understand that family isn't just about shared blood or last names. Family is about respect, kindness, and seeing each other's worth. It's about people who lift you up, not tear you down. That night, I promised myself I would never allow anyone to make me feel small again. I would protect my heart, my peace, and my happiness. And I want to ask you, my dear viewers, have you ever had to walk away from people you once loved? Have you had to let go of relationships that no longer served your well-being? Maybe it was your parents, siblings, or lifelong friends. It's one of the hardest decisions anyone can make. But sometimes it's necessary. If you feel comfortable, please share your story in the comments below. I read every single comment because I know we are not alone. Many of us have faced betrayal or neglect from the ones we expected to stand by us the most. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to take time to heal. But never forget, your self-worth is more important than anyone else's opinion or approval. Sometimes blood makes you related, but respect makes you family. That simple truth has carried me through the darkest days. And I hope it gives you strength too. Because at the end of the day, the people who truly deserve to be in your life are the ones who see your value, stand by you, and treat you with love and respect. So, as you watch this, remember to love yourself first. Protect your peace. And don't be afraid to walk away from anything or anyone that tries to take that away from you. Thank you for listening to my story. And thank you for being part of this journey with me.